So by the time I was gonna go for a walk, it has started raining. Wah, wah, wah. So there's kind of a lot of noise today because our yard maintenance people are here, so you can hear a lot of that. But I just wanted to talk to you guys about kind of our collection for Black History Month. Like, we have a working collection. This is where we keep our picture books, in this place. And then all of our picture books are actually categorized. So everything with the purple star is related to Black and or African American history, or to the African diaspora, like has characters from that. So this is the selection, and I will show you some of my favorites from this, in addition to new books that I actually picked up for this month, for Black History Month at Target recently. All right, so while I'm waiting out the rain, I decided to go over some of my favorite books that are in alignment with Black History Month education that we have from our own personal library. They are books that kind of span the range from, 0 to middle school, because I have a middle school child. So I will go over some of my faves from that, and hopefully that'll be a good use of my time while I'm hoping that the rain subsides so I can go for my walk today. And I'm doing this in my bedroom because the kids are distance learning in our playroom, classroom, homeschool classroom area right now. So Laya has one of her 2 days on campus, virtually on campus today in her homeschool hybrid program, and Lincoln is on distance learning as he is every weekday. So just to make sure that I'm not disrupting them, I'm up here, and let's get into it. All right, so the first set I want to look at is the picture books. And what's funny is the first one that I have is actually my own book from my own childhood when I was in first grade. You can actually see my name that I wrote as a first grader. You can see the binding is compromised. I can probably fix this. But this is just Meet Martin Luther King Jr. I remember I read this book so much as a kid, and I remember just being fascinated because there were such beautiful pictures from his life as part of this book. So that really, I guess, helped me have a strong identification with him. It explained like Jim Crow. This is an old book. So it's by James T. DeKay, and it's illustrated with photographs. I'm not sure if this is even available anymore, but it's just kind of nice also for my children to understand that this has been part of my learning experience and my education and my rearing as well, the fact that we have a book from my childhood. We also have one from Kofi's childhood that we usually read, which is John Henry, an American legend. Obviously, there's the tale of John Henry. So this is a book too that Kofi's had, since he was in elementary school. So these two books are just, examples from our own family history of the process that we've been engaged in over our entire life, of course, of learning about ourselves and placing significance on the value of the contributions of Black people in real life, and even, the characters in fictional life. I would say the most important thing about all of the collection of books that we have is just that it expresses such a range and variety of Black experiences, which I think is really the goal, because you don't want to just focus too narrowly on the slavery to civil rights piece of Black history during Black History Month. That is a very, very small window relative to the entire experience of Black people on Earth. So, and Black people have obviously so many different kinds of talents and experiences and different contributions that they've made to American society and global society. So we have so many different books that capture so many different interests for our kids. This one is by Debbie Allen, and fortunately we've connected with Debbie Allen on a couple of different levels, and this is just a beautiful book. The pictures are fabulous. It's called Brothers of the Night, and obviously this one's focused on dance. So this is a great book with really beautiful images. Another one is Summer Jackson, Grown Up. I love this. This is just a cute story about a girl who wants to be a grown up. And again, it's not particularly fixated on a civil rights or social justice concept, but it is really just demonstrating that a Black girl can be the protagonist in a story that's very relatable to many different kinds of people. So, and what I also love about this is that it is written by Teresa E. Harris, who is also a Columbia alum. So I like to support my alumni community. This one, Salt in His Shoes, it is like a biographical story about Michael Jordan and his experience growing up. So this is really great because he's obviously a sports legend. We are big sports fans in our house. It also has really, really beautiful pictures, and it just rounds out the story of his life. So he's seen as such an archetype and a hero, but it's nice to have a story, especially a story about a male character, because again, I think it's kind of tough to find stories, dolls, just things, action figures that are really focused on Black males. So obviously I have a boy, but even if I didn't, it would be something that I'd be really looking to include, because there are nuances, gender nuances to the Black and or African American experience. So another good one. I'm sure most people know about Ada Twist, Scientist. If you don't, this is a great one. This is just about a little girl who has a propensity for science, which is also just really great. It's an awesome STEM book. And this is part of a series where there are other children represented in STEM. I think there's like Rosie Revere, engineer, and Shimi, gosh, there's another one. There's another one, I don't know. Oh yes, Iggy Peck, architect. So it's here in the back of the book. But these are by Andrea Beatty. So also highly recommend having this one. This one is more about a little girl who is a community organizer. I love that because she has such a great example in the story about organizing a day to support homelessness. And so you've got this great character who is giving back and has support from her family to give back and make a contribution to the world. June Peters will change the world one day. This is by Alika Turner. Also has really great illustrations. I love the illustrations in this book. This is a very simple one called We March. The text is really simple, but the pictures are phenomenal. And it's about organizing a social justice protest. So what happens when we kind of organize ourselves as a community to march against injustice. This is about the March on Washington, but in very, very simplistic terms. And I like that it shows a variety of people present at the march, because it just shows that allyship and broad representation. You can even see that there's someone who's differently able there. So very simple words. This is good for small children to start conversations too, not an overshare. Great one. We've got Of Thee I Sing by Barack Obama. So, this is a book that he wrote, a children's book that he wrote for his daughters. And again, beautiful, beautiful illustrations. And it really highlights a lot of amazing and important people in American history, not just African American, but it talks about, like Sitting Bull and Neil Armstrong, just a variety of characters. But it's nice because it's written from the perspective of an African American, the first African American president, to his daughters. So that's, it's a really inclusive letter or book that he wrote for his children. And we like to read this one as well, because it's not just about having them as characters, African American people as characters, but also just, as the writers of the literature that we're looking at. We love this book too. It's called Thunder Rose. And I like this because it is about a cowgirl. Very fun story with, again, beautiful, beautiful pictures about this little girl who's a cowgirl who grows up in the Wild West. And again, I really value this because it is a completely different perspective. You don't often hear about, young Black girls in the Wild West. And so that's kind of a nice book, and it's a way for the children to expand their imagination and the scope of possibility beyond what's commonly presented to them in media around the experience of, you know, the pioneering West. So Thunder Rose by Kadir Nelson. Great book, great vocabulary too. I have several books as well that focus on the African continent. I have Nefertari, Princess of Egypt. So this is, you know, a little bit about Egyptian history. Egypt is obviously on the continent of Africa. We've got this beautiful book about the life of Nelson Mandela that I also really recommend. This is also by Kadir Nelson, who wrote Thunder Rose. The pictures are stunning. The artwork is just stunning in this book, but it tells the life of, about the life of Nelson Mandela and his experience in Africa, fighting for civil rights. So this is another one that I highly recommend because Nelson Mandela is obviously such a charismatic figure, global figure for social justice for Black Africans. Another one that I love, this is just a special story to me. So it's called Grandma's Saturday Soup, and my grandmother passed away when my daughter was about 18 months old, and I was so heartbroken because I didn't get a chance to take Laya to Ghana to meet my grandmother. My grandmother's from West Africa. And I was just so frustrated because I really wanted to be able to share our culture and our history, you know, through that connection, my daughter being able to meet her great grandmother and to go to the different places and have these different experiences in Ghana in the way that I had accessed them through my grandmother. But I found this book, you guys, like just a couple weeks after my grandmother died, and it is in Twi, which is my dad's native language, and English. And amazingly, it's about a girl named Mimi and her grandmother and the soup that her grandmother makes on Saturday, and it's in Twi in English. So I just feel like, you know, God sent this to me. On the back it says, Mimi misses her grandmother. Every day something reminds her of her grandmother's special Saturday soup and the tales her grandmother tells. So such a special book to me, but also another one that just has beautiful imagery. And this one also is great because I can read it. I don't read Twi very well, but I do speak Twi. So it's great for me to be able to, you know, share that and be able to share the language also with the kids. So this is another great one. So those are some of my favorite in the picture book category. I have several in the books for older kids too that I want to look at. The first one is this, A Billy and the Bayou Prank. So this is about a character called Boy Story Billy. It's actually a doll that is about the size of an American Girl doll. We ended up buying it. My daughter was really into the American Girl doll stuff. She had a big American Girl doll dollhouse. And so, you know, I decided I would get a male doll so that when Lincoln wanted to opt in to play, when we were crafting or doing whatever, he had somebody or he had a doll that kind of looked like him that he could play with as well. So it's great because the doll itself came with this book, which has some pictures. It's a bit longer. It's a chapter book, but it tells about Boy Story Billy, who is from Louisiana. And so this is Billy and the Bayou Prank. And so it's nice that there was the doll and that there's also these stories that, again, tell a different kind of life experience of an African-American child in the United States. So there's, you know, Louisiana has its own kind of culture and everything with the Bayou. So this has been a really great book for them. Another one is about Michaela de Prince. So we have two books about Michaela de Prince. This one, which is kind of for earlier reading, and then we have a chapter book that is actually an autobiography that Michaela de Prince has. And if you aren't familiar with who she is, she was an orphan and she has vitiligo, and she has an amazing life story. So very, very inspiring, but also kind of looking at, you know, Black people and their contribution to ballet and the arts. And so highly recommend. Another series that we really loved, and this would be probably appropriate for, you know, around third grade readers, is the Anna Hibiscus series. And Anna Hibiscus is a girl whose mother, I think, is originally from Canada. Her father is Nigerian, and she lives in Africa. And so this is just a book series about her life, living with her African family, you know, and her siblings, and very fun. She's obviously a precocious little girl. It's also another lens and experience of what it's like to be biracial, bicultural, and international. So my kids really enjoyed this book series as well. I want to shout out the American Girl doll stuff, American Girl series. Laya's past this a little bit, but if you have elementary age girls, there is the Gabriella doll. She was the first Black doll of the year, and there's a book series around her life, as there are for all of the dolls of the year or for the signature dolls. So these were also great stories. I think she's a dancer and an entertainer, and she runs for president. So there's a lot of great messages there about her speaking out and asserting herself. Another really, really fun book is this President of the Whole Fifth Grade. And I guess let me go back and make sure that I give you the names here. So this is just a step into reading book. And then, as I mentioned, this one is written by Michaela DePrince herself, I think in collaboration with someone else. The Boy Story Billy book is by Kristen Jarvis Johnson. Atinúkè is the author of Anna Hibiscus series. And then, of course, you can find the American Girl books through the American Girl Doll store. And then this is by Sherry Winston, this President of the Whole Fifth Grade. And you can tell that this book is really well loved. I think it was read a couple of different times by my kids, but a really fun and cute story, and one where, especially my kids being African American, my daughter in particular, could really visualize herself or see herself in this character. And then the final set of books are just the Who Was books. There are, hopefully you're familiar with this series. They are all biographical stories, and we have Who Was Nelson Mandela, Who's Michelle Obama, Who Was Bob Marley, Who Was Maya Angelou, Who's Muhammad Ali. So we have all different kinds of people represented, different kinds of life experiences and stories, male and female, global kind of perspective, looking at Nelson Mandela and Bob Marley. But these are also really great books. They're accessible. I think we also have Who Was Michael Jackson. We have several of these, and they're kind of easy and fun for my kids to read. They also have some illustrations, so that's really nice. Highly recommend that. And this is just a library that you can continue to build out for your kids. Okay, so finally, this year I'm just adding 4 new books to our collection, and I got all of these at Target. The first 2 are Little Leaders and Little Legends. And this is Bold Women in Black History, and this is Exceptional Men in Black History. And again, I just like that there's a focus, on the contribution of women, because that's significant in its own way, and a focus on the contribution of men, because that's significant in its own way, especially with me having both a boy and a girl. But this is phenomenal. It is a very robust list of amazing people, including Bessie Coleman, Augusta Savage, Ella Fitzgerald, Gwendolyn Brooks, Rosa Parks, Dr. Mae Jamison, Dominique Dawes, Oprah Winfrey, Ruby Bridges, Althea Gibson, Maya Angelou. It's just a very, very long list, and it just has each story has one image and just an explanation of that person's life, an overview. And so it's nice because you get a tremendous amount of exposure to a lot of different people. And even though the pictures are simplistic and accessible, it's nice because if you have a younger child, you can basically just pick one story to read for the day, and that's probably sufficient, and that'll be enough for conversation. But this is something that even Laya will be able to benefit from, and it's a very simple, kind of no-brainer, easy to consume, but she would get access to a lot of different information and learn about people that I'm not even sure that she totally knows about already. So highly recommend that. Same thing on the side for Lincoln. I mean, obviously Laya's going to read this too, and Lincoln will read the female one, but it's kind of nice to be able to see yourself explicitly represented. And so some of the people that are in here are Frederick Douglass, Robert Smalls, Charles Henry Turner, Marshall Taylor, Jacob Lawrence, Gordon Parks, Thurgood Marshall, Charles Drew, Louis Armstrong, Langston Hughes, James Baldwin, Harry Belafonte, John Lewis, Arthur Ashe, Prince, which is amazing. Let's see if we can find the Prince page. Let's see, Prince on page 62. Yes, I mean, that's amazing. So this is going to be really fun for us to kind of go through this month and ongoing. And then of course, when they have school projects and they're looking for different people that they can maybe profile or different people that they could cite, we have these as reference books too. We also got a book that's by James Patterson and Kwame Alexander. We love Kwame Alexander. I have a couple of other books by him. He is a poet. He tends to focus on sports poetry. So we have his book on soccer. But this is amazing because it's called Becoming Muhammad Ali. So it is a book of poetry about the life and experience of Muhammad Ali and his process of becoming a championship boxer. So this is already really fun. We had started reading a couple of the poems even the other night in the car on the way home from Target. But I highly recommend searching for things by Kwame Alexander. He has a beautiful voice in poetry, and it's a really good way to expose your children to poetry, as is Jacqueline Woodson. I can't believe I didn't bring a Jacqueline Woodson book up here, but her book, Brown Girl Dreaming, is one that my daughter really, really, really loved. So there's that. And then the final book that we got this year is called Blended by Sharon M. Draper. And so this is about a girl who is biracial. And I just thought it would be great for my daughter, again, who's in middle school, to start progressing and understanding some of the nuance and complication of different kinds of Black identities and even, the mixed race identity. So, I just gave her the disclaimer that this is just a fictional story that, could represent one person's experience, but it's not, one that we're going to make generalizations based off of, but it can start conversations for us to start thinking about what it could be like to be biracial or bicultural. And so I will also share with her what my experience has been being raised in a bicultural household with one parent who's from Africa and one parent who's from the United States. But I'm looking forward to having some conversations with her about this. So that kind of completes what I have added to our library this February. And so again, this is kind of education and literature that we access year round. I would say in February, because there is so much promotion of new content, it's a time where I buy new things and add and infuse to our library. And so I recommend that you do the same. Like, check out maybe some of the stuff, some of the picture books or some of the chapter books that I've recommended. There's a lot of great materials out there. And the guidelines, again, are just to make sure that you get stuff that is fully representative of the full scope and scale of the African American experience. And it's not just focused on just that slavery to civil rights kind of social justice stuff, because the experiences of Black people are diverse and complex and nuanced. And there are so many different kinds of intersectional identities worth exploring, whether that be being differently abled or whether that is, being mixed race. There's just or being from another country, another part of the African diaspora. So just, go out there and see what you can find that is in alignment with what your children's interests are. There's so many books available, and hopefully you'll have a good time with it for Black History Month. I just wrote an article for Red Tricycle on 6 actionable ways to celebrate Black History Month every day. I will link it in the description below so that you can check that out as well. And happy Black History Month to all of you.